Hey everybody, welcome to KingsTree Media. Sorry about the delay for the last couple weeks. It's been absolutely crazy around the holidays here. But anyway, today we are going to have a little bit longer video and we're going to take a look at my favorite format in all of Magic, Canadian Highlander. I'm going to provide links to their website in the description below, as well as a link to the list that I'm going to show you today, which is my personal Highlander list. So hopefully you're entertained and really interested in this. Otherwise, let me know in the future what you'd rather hear. Thanks for sticking with me. Let's get started. So this is my personal Naya Aggro deck for Canadian Highlander. For those that don't know what this format is, it is a 100 card singleton with no bans list, and instead it has a points list. You get 10 points per deck, and we will discuss that a little bit later. But this format's amazing. It's played at 20 life, and it's a 1v1 format, but it really is awesome because it lets you brew whatever you want. Also, just a quick heads up, my editor is gone, so I had to do this as a voiceover, and it might be a little tough to bear watching it first until I get in the roll of things. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started by looking at the creatures of this deck. And the first one we're going to take a look at is Ash Zealot. So Ash Zealot is insane against Storm. In this format, Storm is very, very good, and it will really beat you down if you're not prepared for it. The great thing is this is an aggressive creature that also just beats face. So it hoses the graveyard deck by making them take 3 damage anytime that they want to cast a spell from their graveyard, as well as, just getting in for 2. Moving on down the list, we have Aven Mind Sensor. Aven Mind Sensor is just good. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It hoses graveyard decks. Bloodbraid Elf, Boros Reckoner, also very good aggro creatures. Burning Tree Emissary allows for some very fast starts, especially on turn 2. You can put out a couple things. The real star is Burning Tree Shaman. This is a red and a green for a 3/4. Whenever you activate an activated ability that is not a mana ability, Burning Tree Shaman deals 1 damage to you. So if you crack a fetch land, that's 2 damage. If you activate Umezawa's Jit, that's 1 damage. Activate Deathrite Shaman, that's a damage. Players don't really know how many activated abilities there are until they're forced to play with this card. It's an absolute all-star in the deck, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Definitely play this card. Other things in this deck are Champion of the Parish, which we're going to shoot right over, but there's a lot of humans in here. Dryad Militant is also really good against Storm. It just helps exile the spells so they can't Yogg Will it back. Goblin Guide, really good in all red aggro decks. Play this card. Just play the card. It's really, really good. 2 power haste for 1. Great value, especially playing at 20 life. Moving down here, we have Great Sable Stag, which is really green True Name Nemesis. I really like this card. It's a green for a 3/3 that can't be countered and has protection from blue and protection from black. It's obscenely hard for any blue or green deck to answer this card. Unless they have red removal, it's going to be very difficult to remove, and it's just going to trounce right through. If you put a sword on this thing, it's going to town constantly. Other things you can do with it, you can get it with Green Sun Zenith. But it looks like we're moving down to Hero of Oxid Ridge, which is a finisher, as well as Huntmaster of the Fells. Both of these are 4 mana finishers. 4 mana is the top end of this deck. Mayor of Avabrak is a really, really sweet card. 1 to green, other humans you control get +1/+1. It has the werewolf ability. If no spells were cast this turn, flip it. It's a 1/1, so it's a little fragile when it comes out. But this card flips into Howlpack Alpha, a 3/3, which has other wolf and werewolf creatures you control get +1/+1, and at the beginning of the end step, you get a 2/2 wolf, which really should just read you get a 3/3 since it's pumping it itself. The other thing to know is this deck has a ton of humans and also has quite a few wolf and werewolves, so you will be generating a lot of value off of this card. Definitely play it. It's really cool. It's a little bit of a pet card for me, but I've really enjoyed it so far in this build, and I can't really see myself playing without it in the future moving forward. Mirren Crusader, it's just you got to beat the black-green deck somehow, and this is how you do it. Just put a sword on it and go to town. It's a double striking 2/2 pro-green, pro-black. Moving down here, we have Mom, Mother of Runes. Play this card if you're in an aggro deck. It protects you. It protects your creatures very well. Next up is Reclamation Sage or Rec Sage. It's a 2/1 for 3 that naturalizes or disenchants when it comes into play. This is currently the go-to in the format right now for artifact or enchantment removal in an aggressive deck. You can't really waste a slot with like naturalize or disenchant, so you need to play a creature. The other great thing is you can Green Sun Zenith this out or Court of Calling if that's your style. Scavenging Ooze, very, very good card. You should just play it. Shaman of the Great Hunt. This is a little bit of a spicier number. 3 in a red for a hasty 4/2 that whenever a creature you control deals damage, it gets the Slith ability, which is putting a +1/+1 counter on it. And it also has Ferocious, which it triggers by itself. For 2 hybrid blue-green, draw a card for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. This can get out of hand very quickly in this deck, and you could be drawing more than 2 or 3 cards. So definitely try this out. I really like it personally. It's not for everyone though. If you don't like, a hasty 4/2 for 4 that doesn't necessarily do anything else, you might want to cut this for something more your speed. But it is pretty good in Highlander. Sin Prodder is next. Sin Prodder is just Bob, meaning, Stoneforge Mystic. Very good in this deck. It's 1 point in this format. So this is where one of the points are. Strong Kirk Noble. It is very good. It's a pet card. There's also a lot of humans in this format. You'd be surprised how many times this just gets to walk right on through. And once it hits once, you've got your value out of it. Then it's a 2-power 1/1. Or 2 power for 1. Sylvan Advocate's very good. If you play Standard, you know it's really good. The bigger thing is the +2/+2 for land creatures. We play Mutavault, and Mutavault swinging as a 4-power attacker is just crazy. Definitely play this card if you are going to play like Raging Ravine or Treetop Village. It's very, very good with man lands, but it's also just, a 2/3 for 2 and then becomes a 4/5 for 2. Vigilance is also relevant. Tarmogoyf, play Tarmogoyf. It's Tarmogoyf. It's really good in green decks. You can Green Sun Zenith it. You can do whatever you need to do. It's a very, very good card, and I'm really, really happy with it. Not much else to say about it, to be honest. It is what it is. It's a green 2-mana, sometimes 7/8. You just have to play Tarmogoyf if you're playing green and an aggressive strategy. Aside from that, we're really looking at like Thalia to be disruptive. So Thalia, non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. So this really helps slow down Storm and blue-based control decks. We do play a decent amount of non-creatures ourselves, but we play 42 to 44 creatures, so this shouldn't hurt us that much. The other Thalia is also in here because most of the lands in this format you will find are non-basic unless you're playing against a 1 or 2 color deck. So this can really, really put the squeeze on people. If you're on the play and you play her on 3, you can literally get 2 turns ahead. Tireless Tracker is one that I'm really excited to play with. I haven't gotten too much use with it yet, but I'm trying it out currently. The big thing here is that fetch lands are going to generate you 2 clues, and anytime you can gas back up as an aggro deck, that's going to be very, very good. So I don't know if it's good yet. I would say stay posted to this list. If you see it come out, then I would probably not play it. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say about it. It gets bigger, which is nice, but the big thing is just the fact that it will let you draw cards. Voice of Resurgence, very, very good card. Green and a white for a 2/2. Whenever it dies, you put a token that has power and toughness XX, where X is the number of creatures you control. It also creates that token if someone plays a spell on your turn. This really, really slows down the blue decks. It keeps them off of your turn. And for the most part, it's going to generate you 1 or 2 tokens regardless because, the control decks have to cast their Ancestral Recall or they have to counter your spells because you're putting on so much pressure. This card is an absolute all-star in any green-white X aggro deck. It's even played in like the Rock, Abzan, Abzan mid-range, Abzan control. It's just a really, really efficient creature for 2 mana, especially since it leaves behind something else. This does exactly what you want to do in this kind of deck. And if you're in these colors, you should definitely, definitely play it. We are a zoo deck, so, we're looking for aggressive creatures, 2 power, all that. Oh, sorry, this is kind of off the cuff as well. So we're moving on to Voltaic Brawler. This card is unreal. Voltaic Brawler is the reason I built the deck. For a green and a red, you get a 3/2 that generates you 2 energy when it comes into play. And for 1 energy, you can give it +1/+1 and trample until the end of turn. Even if it's just 2 turns of it, your creature probably isn't going to last that long anyway, so getting to deal 4 damage twice in 2 attacks is absolutely crazy. This card is beyond busted, and I can't imagine not playing it in a green-red deck. Definitely try it out. Let me know what you think about it. I think it is potentially the best card in the entire deck, besides Tarmogoyf. So that's pretty high praise for a card that just came out and that has very little testing. This deck is fairly new, but it has tested very, very well in what I played it in. Against, moving on, Wild Nacatl, also very good. If you're playing Naya, play this card. It's 1 mana 3/3. That's crazy. It's very good value. And the last card on this list that we're going to look at in a second is Zurgo Bellstriker. I've been asked a few times why I play it. It's a 1 mana 2/2. It can't block, but the bigger thing is it has dash. So later in the game, whenever you just need to deal them a few damage and you don't want to worry about sorcery speed removal, that's when this card really, really shines. You get to just throw it out, and then at the end of turn it comes back, so it avoids all their sorcery speed removal and gives you something to do with your mana. Let's move on over to the far right column now on instants. Heads up, I did accidentally cut off the right side whenever I was recording this the first time. If you have any questions, I can always put the card links in the description below. But Atarka's Command is crazy. It's one of the best burn spells in this deck. It has 4 modes, but most of the time it's just going to be a green and a red to skullcrack somebody, or a green and a red to deal 3 damage and use the +1/+1 on all your creatures mode. Putting a land into play is probably not what you want to be doing in this deck, unless you have like Tireless Tracker and it's a fetch land or something. But yeah, Atarka's Command is just absolutely busted. Getting to do an overrun and 3 damage, or just, 3 damage and keep them from gaining life, or +1/+1 your creatures and keep them from gaining life. It's very, very good. It's a Swiss Army knife of burn spells. And if you're playing green-red, you really, really need to be playing this card. I really don't know what else to say about it, but play this card. Moving down the instance list, we play a ton of 2 cost or 1 cost deal 3 damage. Boros Charm deals 4 damage and has some relevant text. Lightning Strike, Lightning Bolt, Searing Spear. The other cards in here like Path and Sword Plowshares you just have to play. Punishing Fire we play because we also play Grove of the Burn Willows. If you're not playing Grove, this is probably not very good to play. But this gives us a little bit of reach. So later in the game, we will be able to just, if we stall out, if it's in the graveyard, we can pay 1 with Grove, they gain a life, use that red to get it back, and just attrition them out that way. This card's crazy powerful. If you play any Legacy at all, or if you watch Legacy, you know how crazy this card can be. And in this deck, it actually does a great job at just finishing people off. I've been really happy with it. Let's go down to artifacts. Aether Vial, I am no longer playing in this list. I need to update this. This is currently Skyshroud Elite, which is a green for a 1/2 or a 1/1 that gets +1/+2 if your opponent controls a non-basic land. They almost always do. Yeah, just go by ear if you want to play Aether Vial. I've noticed it doesn't really do that much for me in this deck. In Goblins, it's good. Skull Clamp is free. There are no points for this card, which is absolutely busted. Play Skull Clamp. Even though our creatures aren't necessarily 1 toughness, this is very, very good at just finishing them off. It also lets them gain us some value back whenever your random 1/2 or 2/2 or 3/2 dies. This helps us generate a couple cards back to gas back up. Skull Clamp's really good. Play the card. Sword of Feast and Famine, I think, wants to be Sword of Light and Shadow, to be honest. I really haven't got to spend too much time playing with it yet, but it's definitely a metagame call. I would play Sword of Light and Shadow personally because I think just regrowing a creature is what you want to be doing. Sword of Fire and Ice is the reason we play Stoneforge Mystic besides Umezawa's Jit. Play Sword of Fire and Ice, it's really good. And Umezawa's Jit is 2 points for a reason. It is absolutely the best equipment in Highlander. It does everything. It does everything. Whether you want to kill a creature, gain a couple life, or pump your own creatures, this does it. Whenever you deal damage, you get 2 counters on it. You remove a counter to do either -1/-1, +2/+2, or even gain 2 life. If you do have Burning Tree Shaman, be aware that this is an activated ability, so you will take damage for doing it. I had a few games where I activated it at 2 life and accidentally killed myself. So just be aware of that. Sorceries, Chain Lightning's in here. Chain Lightning is really good. It's Sorcery Speed Lightning Bolt. Council's Judgment is also in here. Play Council's Judgment. It's really high costed, but it gets rid of the problems like Jace the Mind Sculptor, which is the win condition of most blue decks, and Liliana of the Veil. It gets rid of the really hard to answer things. It can also get rid of opposing Tarmogoyfs and things like that. So definitely play the card. Forked Bolt, I think, wants to be Arc Trail. That's totally personal preference. I'm going to change it back to Arc Trail very soon. Green Sun Zenith. Green Sun Zenith is really good. It's not as crazy in this deck as it is in like a green, toolbox deck, but it will do you some cool things. You can go get Reclamation Sage with it. You can get Tireless Tracker. You can get Tarmogoyf. You can get really, really awesome spells with it. Yeah, I really like Green Sun Zenith because you can do some things that people aren't ready for. Get Scavenging Ooze, get Dryad Arbor, or not Dryad Arbor, Dryad Militant. There's just a lot you can do with it. It really can get you about anything you want. Most of the time, you're going to get a 3-drop. Sometimes you'll get Huntmaster just to finish them off. Yeah, it's a really sweet card. I really, really like it. It does some really cool things in this deck. Next, I want to talk about maybe the newest and most interesting inclusion in this deck, Arlen Cord. I'm not sure how good Arlen Cord is yet, to be honest. I haven't got to draw it yet. I've played about 6 games with it in the deck and have not seen it. I saw it once and got immediately killed. But the big thing with Arlen Cord is her +1. Giving a creature +2/+2 vigilance and haste seems like it's going to be very, very good in this deck. I can just imagine dropping down, a Knight of the Reliquary that might be a 7/7 on turn 5 or 6, and then giving it haste and vigilance and just going, all right, attack you for 9. That can end a game really quickly. Her other ability is when she I'm sorry, I can't actually see the other ability right now. I need to zoom in. And it's put a 2/2 Green Wolf into play. That's totally fine. Her flip side's where I really get excited. The plus ability to give your creatures +1/+1 and trample. It will end games in an absolute hurry. The minus ability is fine. You lightning bolt something and she flips back over. That can be good to just alternate between, giving something haste and vigilance, bolting something, flipping her back over. There's nothing wrong at all with doing that. There's nothing wrong with just lightning bolting. And if you happen to be able to ultimate her, it will just end the game. The ultimate is creatures you control gain haste, and you can tap them to deal damage equal to their power to target player or creature. You'll just dome them right out. Domri Raid, really, really good. We play 42 creatures. Play Domri. Blue decks lose their minds when this card comes into play because they actually can't answer it. Xenagos is underperforming. I'm not a huge fan of it in this deck. I think it needs to be Hellrider, and that's actually what I'm going to switch it to. It doesn't produce like it needs to, mainly because we're not using the mana. The +1 doesn't really do anything for us. We're not a big mana deck, so we can't use it. The 2/2 Hasty Satyr is fine, but if you're just putting out a 0 ability for a 2/2, that's not that great. Sulfuric Vortex, play this card. If you're a newer player and you don't feel comfortable with it, Just understand this is the best card against basically all control decks. It's unpreventable damage that they can't gain life. It really slows people down. It's going to speed the game up while slowing down their plan because they're getting really nervous. It forces combo decks to go off before they're ready. It's a very good card. You're going to deal damage to yourself, but you're dealing more damage to them. That's why you're an aggressive deck. So don't be afraid of this card at all. Definitely play it. Sylvan Library is also on this list. There's not a ton to say about Sylvan. Just play it. It's a green card draw spell. If you're not playing blue, then play Sylvan Library. It's going to be okay in this deck. Be careful if Sulfuric Vortex is in play. Don't take 6 a turn. That's really dangerous. But other than that, let's look at lands really briefly. I play 7 fetches. I'm going to play 8. I'm going to remove a basic island to play 1 more fetch. Other lands of note in here are like Copperline Gorge. The fast lands are very good. It's like Razorverge Thicket and all that. Gavany Township's fine. 5 mana doesn't happen. Grove of the Burn Willows. Do not play this card if you are not playing Punishing Fire. Do not play this card if you don't play Punishing Fire. You do not want to give them any life. The only reason we play this is for that card. Horizon Canopy, super, super good. You can just bin it for a card later in the game. With Neither Reliquary, you go get it. Inspiring Vantage is new. It's a fast land. Caracas is something you're probably going to want to play. It is a metagame call, but you're probably going to want to play it. It does absolutely everything to stop Reanimator. You can't beat Elesh Norn, just so you know. So without Caracas or a path, you just lose to that card. Looking at the rest of the list here, Rishadan Port or Rishadan Port is not necessary. You do not need to play this card. I personally do, but I'm probably going to take it out for a colored mana source. The big thing with Port is that you can just shut people off because you play Wasteland and Strip Mine as well. But it is a colorless land, and if you have an opening hand of like this and a filter land, you have to mulligan the hand. It doesn't do anything to further your game plan. Don't be afraid to not play this card, and it will also save you $100 so don't be afraid to just cut it. I'm probably going to in the near future. It's a really sweet land. It can really end games, but it's a corner case to end games. Sacred Foundry, play all 3 of the shocks. Savannah, play all 3 of the duels. The good news is these 3 duels are the cheaper ones. Taiga, Savannah, and Plateau. So at least it's not a fortune. It's not the blue duels. You're going to want these. The nice thing about this format is they do allow gold-bordered cards as long as it is collector's edition or a real printing by Wizards of the Coast. You're allowed to play it. Wasteland and Strip Mine are points, Strip Mine's points, Wasteland is not, but we are playing both of those. You're playing an aggro deck, play those cards. Wooded Bastion, I also play Firelit Thicket. This card is also really good. It's not good in your opening hand, but it gets really good if you have a colored source. I definitely recommend this card. It's really sweet. But let's run down to the description real quick and just go over some points. The points I play in this deck are Strip Mine at 2, Umezawa's Jit at 2, and Stoneforge Mystic at 1. I only play 5 points. I could play a Moxen or 2 if I wanted to cut 1 card. I could play a second Moxen. But I play Mox in all of my other decks, and I wanted to show people that you can build a really cool, fast Zoo deck without playing power. This deck will cost you somewhere around $400 to $500, maybe 6 or 7 if you play, if you intend to buy most of it, just straight up. If you are allowed, as I said, to play collector's edition cards, there is no shame in that. If you don't want to pay for Moxen at $1,100 a piece, pay $50 and get a real printed collector's edition Mox. Same with the duels. You can buy collector's edition duels for a quarter of the cost. Definitely, check it out. This format's amazing. I can't say enough great things about it. The people up in Victoria, Canada are really, really awesome as well. If you have any questions about this format, you can definitely ask me in the comments section below, or you can inquire on our social media pages. You can check us out at Tapped Out at modern_mastery, which is, again, my personal Tapped Out. Also, a couple of other KingsTree guys post on here as well. We'll start being more active. And if you want more videos of Highlander deck techs or deck techs of other formats in general, all you have to do is let us know. We'd be more than happy to cover whatever format and whatever deck you want us to talk about. We also have a powered cube that we've been running for about 5 or 6 years now that we're really, really happy with, that we've tuned down to a science. So if you want us to talk about a cube sometime, we'd love to do that as well. But at this point, I think we'll wrap it up. We're a little over 25 minutes now, and we're sorry the video went a little bit long, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, the video and subscribe for more content. We're going to try to get a lot more out in the near future. We're still in the process of moving, so you have to bear with us a little bit longer, and we're sorry for that. But I wanted to make sure we got something out to you soon. So I hope you enjoy this video on Canadian Highlander. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comments section below, or any comments or thoughts. Definitely let us know. We love to engage with our viewers. So at this point, share this video, let us know what you think, like and subscribe, and check us out on Tapped Out.